Hey everyone, John Henry here from School of Trade, and today we're going to be taking a look at a kind of a funky little wave pattern short here on crude oil. I'll explain why in a second. Let me just get my orders in place here. Go final target off at 34. Let's go to 36. So the reason I say it's kind of a funky wave pattern, you can see that we came off of the highs quite nicely. And that high move lower gave us a gorgeous reset. And the reset was relatively wide. But the problem was we came into the trigger zone early. And then when we finally pulled back and came into the trigger zone again, we went above it. It just didn't look quite right. But now we're actually setting up kind of a multi-pattern in the sense that we do have the wave pattern short, but we also have kind of a head and shoulders pattern here. And that's kind of what's interesting me right now. You can kind of see it's kind of a slanted neckline. That's not the best. I'm entering it a little bit aggressively up here. The reason I'm entering here is just because it's a snapback test of 50.85, the low side of this trigger zone, to push it a little bit lower down. Now, obviously, if you're aggressive, you'd still be short from up here. Maybe you would have gotten stopped out at break even plus a little bit. But for me, I needed a little bit more confirmation. It didn't look quite right. So yeah, just kind of looking to the downside. Now, on this move lower here, I didn't mean to delete that. There we go. On this move lower here, we're looking for continuation back down. Now, this is kind of something that we've run into recently as well, where we've got these dotted lines kind of in the way. So my target's at 60, but I can't really put it there. I've got to put it at 65. I've got to get ahead of this level. You can see that it's acted as support several times earlier today. We really don't want to mess around with that. Now, the next target below, that's designed to be a runner target. So that one's fine if it wants to go lower. We are cycling off the highs, so the anticipation is that we break the lows. Now, looking for the lows to break down to our target here at 36, maybe that's a little bit aggressive. You can always kind of adjust it if you want, or just take your profit right off at the low of day. That's always an option as well. Conservatively, that's going to be where you're going to take your target. Now, below us, you can see there's not really any other levels of support until 49.80, so it's quite a ways away. Now, that being said, that does kind of allow you to have a little bit of flexibility. You can go to the low of day if you'd like. I'm going to look for that extension down here to 36. Maybe because I'm trying to be a little bit more conservative, I'll go a couple ticks more than I normally would. Let's go 5 ahead of it. So I'll go to 50.39. And that gives us a little bit of room so that if people are going to be taking a lot of profit at this extension level, we're guaranteed pretty much to get filled down there. Puts us in a nice little position. So from our entry short, took 4 contracts short at 80. We're looking for our first target at 65. That's going to come off and give us 15 ticks. Now we're taking 3 off there, again, just because I'm not expecting it to run through the lows. I'm expecting it to get to the lows, maybe break it a little bit. So looking at 15 off at the first target, that'll give us 45 since we're taking 3 off there. And if we can break through those lows and get us a final target, we'll be tacking on another 41. So even though it's not a huge trade by any means, if we can get that runner target, we're actually sitting on a pretty nice position. It's about 86 ticks. Now we do still need to see this run a little bit lower, but overall not too bad. We had that little kind of a snapback retest. We're forming that head and shoulders pattern. You can see that pretty clearly now, especially since we started kind of falling back down again. We're getting a cross down in the averages. Everything's looking pretty solid here. So stops where it needs to be at 90, first target at 65, second at 39. Once we get the first target filled, stop will go to break even, and then we'll just kind of sit on hands and wait for price to continue. So we'll be back in a little bit. All right, there we go. So we got that target filled ahead of that level there at 64. Now, I want to move my stop to break even, but the problem is it's a little bit kind of iffy. You can go to break even if you want, but you'll notice it when it broke down underneath this level, it kind of snapped back to that break even level again. So I know there's interest there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stop 1 tick behind that just to be safe. Yeah, I'm risking 1 tick. It's not a huge deal. Honestly, it's kind of like going to break even and getting slippage. So, 1 tick's not a big deal, but that gives me the buffer that I need just in case this level does want to hold, maybe even 2 ticks, just to give that level the room that it needs. It's anticipated that these types of levels, these areas of interest, you can see that if you draw a line across here, that level was held several times. We bounced off it there, held it there, held it there, held it there. When it broke, it came back, tested it again. So I need to give that room kind of the room that it deserves in a sense. So we've got our first target taken off. We've got 45 in the bank. We've got our stop locked in at -2. If it stops us out, we still take 43 out of the trade. So we're more than happy with the trade as is. But if it wants to continue lower, looking for that final target a little bit farther down, down at 39. Again, we're front running it a little bit more aggressively just because we've got the low of day there. There's nothing really underneath us. And because we're cycling off the highs, we're expecting it to break the lows, but probably not by that much. So 39 will be the second target and the final target. So we'll be back in a little bit, see if we can get that continued push lower. We'll lock our stop in when we can, but I really would like to move my stop after we break this low down here at 52. Then I know for sure that we're gunning to the downside. So that's probably what I'll wait to do, move my stop to break even or wherever I can to lock it in profitably after we start breaking that 52. So we'll be back in a little bit, see if we can push lower. All right, we're starting to test those lows of the day here. I'm going to lock my stop in a little bit more aggressively and just kind of get this going in here. And we're one tick away, so now I'm going to lock my stop in even farther. Oh, nope, don't have to. Perfect, got filled. So that was kind of the move that we were looking for. You can see this is exactly why we've got to be careful of those levels. When it hits that level, it's going to bounce around. It may bounce enough to get you stopped out. We had our stop in a logical place, so that was fine. But this is why you want to take that profit at those levels. Yeah, I mean, if you put your target down here where it initially was, you would have been filled. But you don't want to risk that, right? What happens when it comes down here, doesn't fill your target, shoots right back up and stops you out. You don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. I'm much happier taking my profit off here, banking 45 ticks, and if it comes back and stops me at a break even, so be it. I'm still up $450 on the trade. So that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these dashed lines. This one was another area of concern, but and you can see it. If you zoom in a little bit closer here, you can see that little wick on there. It did bounce off that level a little bit, quickly broke through, but when you see that little bit of a bounce there, lock your stop in a little bit closer. You don't want to risk it. As it starts and continues breaking through, then so be it. Just keep moving down until you either get your target or you get stopped out. But that's going to be the trade for today. Beautiful little combination pattern of a wave pattern and a head and shoulders as confirmation to get in. If you have any questions about it, feel free to send an email to School of Trade. Don't forget to check out our trial at schooloftrade.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.